listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome into the GM Shuffle. The GM Shuffle is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. I'm Geoff Schwartz, 8 years in National Football League. Marty Hurney, 30 years NFL front offices with the Panthers, the Chargers, and the Commanders. And Marty, Week 14 is in the books, and we have a lot to get to with the action we saw yesterday. Also, previewing the game tonight between the Eagles and Chargers. Big game between both those teams, fighting for divisions, fighting for wild card bursts, and just fighting, I think, for some narratives around those teams. So we'll get into that in a little bit. One thing we've done this year, Marty, as we approach the postseason, we've finished almost 14 weeks now, is go through where the standings are after every NFL Sunday. Let's start out with the AFC here. Number 1 seed via tiebreaker, the Denver Broncos. They defeat the Raiders yesterday. Any main takeaways, Marty, from the Broncos, who just have won? I'm not good at math. I believe that's 10 games in a row now how the Denver Broncos won.
10 games in a row, and it just, we talk about confidence and momentum all the time. You can see Bo Nix's performance improving every week to me. He looked so much more comfortable moving inside the pocket, up in the pocket, keeping his eyes downfield. I think he's gotten better as the season's going on, and I think it's a credit to the Broncos and just the success they've had, because I don't know whether you make that kind of improvement if you're not winning like they do. But winning brings you so much confidence. I thought he played extremely well yesterday.
He did. That was a game where they controlled throughout, which they hadn't really done the last month, right? They won by 3, by 3, by 3, by 1, and then to go into Vegas, and Vegas does stink, and win that game by 7. With a little controversy there at the end for those who were on the Denver Broncos there. I'm very sorry. That shouldn't have happened that way, but the Raiders did cover there with a field goal on the last play of the game to lose by 7. With the win Denver had yesterday, they now have a multiple game lead in the division. Not only, obviously, are they the 1 seed at the moment, but in the AFC West, they have a 2-game lead in the Chargers who play tonight. But more importantly, the Kansas City Chiefs now have been eliminated from winning the division, Marty, for the 10th straight year. The Chiefs have won that division for 9 straight years now. The Chiefs lose yesterday to the Texans, and the Chiefs now very slim chance to make the playoffs. They're the 10 seed at the moment, 6 and 7. 3 teams, 6 and 7. Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs, Miami Dolphins. I'm glad I'm with someone that does not understand the 6-7 joke, but they're 6-7, Marty. And the Chiefs yesterday lose to the Texans. I gave out a best bet, Chiefs under 22.5 points. That didn't even get close. They only scored 10 points. And the Chiefs are done. Their dynasty as we know it, with this iteration of what it is over now, Marty. There are so many things wrong with the Chiefs. I've talked about this for weeks and weeks and weeks now, and we're starting to see the frustration on their faces. For so long, this team has done such a good job of hiding frustration, and it showed yesterday, Marty, in a loss.
Well, I don't think they hid frustration. They just had the confidence that they were going to overcome anything that any obstacles they had. But this is different, Geoff, and you're so right. You look at their body language. You look at their faces yesterday after the game. They were a really discouraged team. And, it just hit me so hard because we haven't seen that look on this team's face for so many years. And it just did seem like that was obviously an extremely critical game for both teams. And when they lost that, you just, even though they're still in the hunt, you really feel in your gut like they are not going to be in this playoff mix.
No, they're not. They're not. And their schedule is easy down the stretch, but that doesn't mean they're going to win all the games, right? They're going to be favored probably home against Denver, home against the Chargers next week, but they're not playing like that. Their numbers do not align with the results on the field, Marty. And two things to discuss from this game I wanted to talk to you about, because I thought about you yesterday when this happened, and then also long-term for the Chiefs. The Chiefs went for it on 4th down when they absolutely should not have gone for it. It was 10-10. The Texans had done nothing on offense in the second half. Like, I think they had -2 yards in the third quarter. The game was just a back and forth, but the Chiefs started to feel themselves a little bit. They had tied the game. They were feeling good. Their defense was playing out of this world, and they went for it on 4th down. I'm going to pull up the exact spot. 4th and 1, at the 31-yard line. Excuse me, that wasn't even that was the worst one, right? Yes, correct. It was 10-10, fourth down, 31-yard line. They go for it, and they do not convert. Texans then go down the field, go up 17-10, and the ball game was over. They should have punted. We all agree on that. But something you say, Marty, all the time when it comes to analytics is the models always say go for it. And people tweet out the model, Marty, that said go for it. Two different models said go for it. And it was the wrong call. It wasn't go for it. It was punt the football back to the Texans, make them work 75 yards for a touchdown. And Chris Collinsworth said on the telecast, he's absolutely right, that when you don't get that first down, the defense that had been playing so well feels like they are not given an opportunity to win that game if that happens. And they were so super deflated, Marty. So I thought about you because you always say the model says go for it, and it always does.
It always does. And again, Geoff, my biggest problem with that is that it takes away the human element. It takes away that this game is about confidence and momentum. If they kick the field goal and go up by 3, it's a different game. We don't know where they march down and score a touchdown and go up 17-13. I just think you have to take advantage of your opportunities. And I said field goal, but punt the ball and make them drive and just don't. It just seems like now we're approaching offense like it's 4 downs no matter what. And the logic of the game and the flow of the game sometimes takes us a back seat to the percentages and what you should do analytically. Listen, people have been in this league for a long time. And, I think Andy Reid knows you punt the ball and make them drive. And I just, I think it happens more often than not, but there's nobody really tracking when analytics fails. It's only when it works.
I agree there, and that was a failed moment. And the other thing, Marty, that we need to address, Chiefs fans, you're not firing Andy Reid, okay? So, get over this, okay? You've made it 3 straight Super Bowls, and you won 2 of them. It might not have been perfect, but to expect Andy Reid at any point in the last 3 years to fire a single person on that staff was never going to happen. He doesn't fire anyone anyways, first of all. Rarely does, okay? And secondly, what do you expect that you fire Andy Reid for who? Like, to not give Andy Reid the opportunity, Marty, to make changes. A Hall of Fame coach who has led you to the most success you've ever had in franchise history. He gets one offseason, Marty. It's this offseason to make change. If he doesn't, he's fired. It's very simple, right? If he doesn't make changes on offense, he will be let go. But to jettison him after one bad season that really, again, is not that bad, right? Like, they've had some weird things happen to them. Things could have flipped pretty easily in a couple games, and now you're in the playoff hunt. But to fire him after this, Marty, would be absolutely ludicrous, in my opinion. Give him the opportunity to fix it. He fired Bob Sutton to bring in Steve Spagnuolo. They let Eric Bieniemy essentially walk. They could have brought it back, and they didn't. Staff changes have to be made in offense, absolutely. But give him the chance to do that. I don't get the fervor to fire Andy Reid after the season from Chiefs fans.
Mr. Richardson always said the thing that separates football from every other sport is the emotion that it brings from its fans. It's just such an emotional sport. And for anybody to even think or talk about, mention firing Andy Reid, that's just emotions and taking over, which is just, it's wrong. I mean, Andy Reid is not going anywhere. My gosh, he arguably the best coach in the NFL. And we just spent a whole week talking about Mike Tomlin, who'd been there 19 years, not had a losing season, and what his future was. And what's he do? The Steelers come out and win a game against the Ravens and are on top of the division. And it's one of the first things Aaron Rodgers said in his post-game interview is, we're taking a lot of heat this week. Hopefully that it makes it calm down some.
Let's get to those Pittsburgh Steelers, Marty, because they win against Baltimore Ravens. They're right now the 4 seed because they are the division leaders at 7-6. Baltimore falls back to 6-7. This was the most classic Steelers game of all time, right? Back against the wall, Marty, right? Back against the wall. No one believes in us. Let's fire the coach. Let's play our best game of the season. Every year, Marty, without fail. This is what Pittsburgh does every single season. they played their game. DK Metcalf had a big game, and Rodgers looked comfortable. The run defense was much better at times. There was a big long carry for Baltimore, but Henry, he had some success more later than early in that game. My takeaway from this game, Marty, though, if you want to fire Andy Reid, what are we doing in Baltimore, man? Like this team right now looks absolutely nothing like any Baltimore team we've had in years. What is wrong with Baltimore right now, Marty? Because I there's just something not right. I can figure out the Chiefs' problems pretty easily. Baltimore, I can't.
Well, I think that I don't think Lamar Jackson has been at his best for really the entire season, but it's another example, Geoff, of in this league when things start going wrong, they continue to go wrong. And Baltimore had a lot of bad breaks in that game. I mean, the likely catch, you look at it, they break it down. Okay, he didn't hit the third step.
BS, Marty. I call BS. That's a touchdown. Why are we doing this, man?
I think, Geoff. That's what I think.
What we should do, instead of going to the official in the booth, we go to the local bar, okay? And we ask 50 people at the bar if that's a catch or not, okay? If 80% of them say it's a catch, it's a catch. That was a catch. Everyone would be like, catch, touchdown, because the part of it that sucks most is inconsistent, because early in the season, same play happened, they gave someone a touchdown. Like that, the inconsistency bothers me, Marty. That was a catch, man. Come on. We all watch football. He caught the football, the touchdown.
Well, I feel like they have to change the rule, Geoff, and say that the receiver's got to take the ball home for it to be a completion. I mean, it's getting ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, to me, I'm with you. That was a catch, and I was furious. And then they bring on the guys on the TV, the official, and they slow it down, and they show that he didn't hit the third step. But that was a catch in my day, in your day. It's a catch, and I just that was a huge play.
And then the fourth down play where it was intended for Mark Andrews. Actually, I think it was for Zay Flowers. It was open in the back of the end zone, and Andrews tipped the ball. It's just sort of a mess in Baltimore. Let's pick up some discussion about this division, the North, and we'll talk about the South that had a big sea change yesterday in Jacksonville. Do the next. Jim Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We're back on the GM Shuffle. Let's continue our conversation, Marty, on the Steelers here. One thing that you noted that I think was important development is they threw the ball down the field yesterday, and that changes what any offense can be, but more importantly, Pittsburgh, that really hasn't done that all season, is the way they threw the ball down the field, which was a lot of DK Metcalf down the sideline. Is that sustainable for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think that's the personality they're going to have to shift to if they have any plans on, one, finishing this thing off and winning the division, but two, going into the playoffs. We talked about being a quarterback tournament. You have to be able to push the ball downfield in the playoffs to be successful. And Aaron Rodgers talked after the game about how great a week DK Metcalf had during practice, and he joked with him. He said, just because you practice great doesn't mean you're getting the ball on Sunday a lot. But then he said, hey, I wanted to try to get him the ball. And 52-yard pass right off the bat to DK Metcalf. They had some big plays. I think there was another 38-yard touchdown swing pass to Jalen Warren. So they were getting plays in chunks, which they have not done before this year. If they want to solidify the division, and more importantly, if they want to do anything in the playoffs, that is what they have to keep doing. They have to keep pushing the ball downfield.
They do, and I don't know if that's something that we can get every week. I love DK's effort yesterday. I think sometimes he's inconsistent, Marty. I even loved he played gunner too, I believe, on a punt snap at the end of the game. So I love that effort, but we just have not seen that routinely from him, I think, throughout his career. And so they get that down the stretch here. They got a chance. I don't buy Baltimore, man. It's not. I don't think they're going to flip the switch. The switch hasn't been flipped all season. I don't expect it to flip after this game. And then the Bengals, who I think people thought maybe Burrow coming back, hard charge, move forward. They lose to the Bills. The Bengals defense is just bad. I mean, they've lost games this year where they scored 34 points, 42 points, 38 points. They're just, the defense is not good, and it showed yesterday. And I think very clearly the Bengals, Marty, I believe you feel the same way, are not going to be in the postseason at this rate. No, they're not making a wild card with 9 losses already. And whatever hope they had of the division, that's now done.
Yeah, and again, they had momentum, and they're ahead 28-18 in that game, Geoff. But then the Bills come to Josh Allen, 40-yard touchdown run. Josh Allen makes to bring him within the field goal, and that ignited everything. Then the next two Bengals series, Joe Burrow throws his first 2 touchdowns of his injury abbreviated season. Interception. I'm sorry, he threw 2 interceptions to his first 2 of the season. But Josh Allen's run, to me, seemed to spark that victory. And I think with the Bills moving forward in their attempt to try to get the division away from the Patriots and then moving into the playoffs, listen, all wins run through Josh Allen for this team. And they have a lot of talent around them. Their offense line's very good. They have some very good tight ends. The running back's great. The defense can kind of be on and off at times, but they made big plays yesterday. But at the end of the day, Josh Allen has to make those superstar plays because that's what he is for them. And they've done a good job of surrounding good players around him, but he's still their guy that has to make those plays. To me, that 40-yard touchdown run sparked that victory.
Well, at that point, it looked like things were pretty dire for Buffalo. They had some stalled out moments on offense early in the game, and that touchdown run, gave them life because there were still 7.5 minutes left, so it felt like you had opportunity. Then Bedford intercepts a screen pass, which, by the way, twice yesterday, 2 separate games, defensive players jumped up and either Bedford, I think, just outright caught the wide receiver screen. And 2, Van Ginkel, I think, right, for the Vikings, ended up tipping up a screen and catching himself on wide receiver screens. These guys are so athletic. And then, as you mentioned, a tip pass, interception by a defensive lineman leads to another touchdown for Buffalo. And then it was on from there. T. Higgins returned yesterday. Looked like he got concussed again, but had a really big game. Look, the Bengals, you just can't pay 2 wide receivers if your rest of your team isn't good enough. It's that simple, right? They're great wide receivers, but there's so many holes on this team, Marty, because they're using salary on impactful, not as impactful positions, I think, a wide receiver than the rest of the roster needs. And you just can't pay 2 guys like this and be good, in my opinion. So you never would have paid 2 wide receivers like this, right? I mean, you had see them.
I did not blame that in that. But if you have 2 impactful guys such as theirs, okay, I do think you consider doing it. But what you have to do, Geoff, you really have to hit on every draft choice defensively. You have to build your defense through the draft, and you really can't afford a lot of misses. So if you're going to take that route, and listen, that's their identity right now. So I'm not going to criticize them for doing that, but they do have to draft better and get better on defense.
They do have to draft better and get better. I believe you on there, and you got to do it this year. If you like what you're hearing here on the GM Shuffle, there's even more VSiN Pro betting splits, power ratings, sharp analysis, all for $99 your first month. Go to VSiN.com, check out all the subscription options. Don't look now, Marty. The Jacksonville Jaguars are on the prowl. They beat the Colts. They're 9-4. They're winning the division at the moment. They're the 3 seed right now. Their DVOA up to 9, National Football League. Their defense down to 7th. They're a good defense. Special teams 3rd. Offense, they're sort of figuring out whichever ones. I still think it's a little shaky at times, Marty, but they're making the plays. They won 4 games in a row. The Colts, dead in the water. They're not making the playoffs, in my opinion. But what did you take away from Jacksonville yesterday, getting a big win, playing a Colts team, obviously, without Jones for most of it?
If I'm the general manager or the owner there, I go away from that game saying, man, if we didn't know it before this, we got the right head coach. Liam Cohen, to me, could be in the conversation for Coach of the Year with what he's done with that team.
Yep.
And they're just getting better and better. They're just like every other team, but if they don't beat themselves, I think they're solid enough on both offense and defense to be extremely competitive. I still think they're going to be in a race with the Texans for the division lead. But again, the other thing is, I always I've mentioned it 3 or 4 times about how when I was with the Panthers, going to Atlanta was a house of horrors. Well, that's the 10th year in a row that the Colts have gone down and lost at Jacksonville to the Jaguars. And not only did that happen, but they lose their starting quarterback to an Achilles.
Yeah, so quickly on Jacksonville, I want to expand on one thing you said, because I think it's important as we talk about some of these teams. We'll talk about the Bears and Packers in a few minutes, but something I mentioned with the Bears a lot is you start sort of seeing this time of year, 12 weeks, 13 weeks, 14 weeks, new coach, new coordinators, they either get it or don't by now, in my opinion. They just do. And right away. And Jacksonville's won 4 in a row. They played a lot better. Very clear Liam Cohen can coach. He knows what he's doing. The team is getting better. How good they're, I don't know. But they're playing winning football. Look, they had the Broncos a couple of weeks. We'll find out really, I think, what they're about. The Colts, Marty, when they traded for Sauce Gardner, they traded for someone else too, right? They traded for second person. We discussed what this meant for the Colts. And we talked about how it meant they were all in on Daniel Jones as quarterback because they were giving up their first round picks to make this happen.
Yes.
And sorry, it just was Sauce. The Jets traded someone else to the Cowboys. So it just was Sauce.
Yes.
And at the time we mentioned that we did not think going all in on Daniel Jones was probably prudent. And now Daniel Jones has tore his Achilles. I don't know the severity, but obviously that's not a good injury. Right now on the roster, Anthony Richardson is also on injury reserve. So they have Riley Leonard and whoever else they're going to sign to be the quarterback. Jones unlikely to probably be ready to play at the start of next season. This backfired on the worst way possible. I get what they did, Marty, but this is the future of the Colts now looks pretty bleak for the next couple of years at quarterback position.
Well, it definitely changes the way that the contract discussions will go with Daniel Jones in the offseason. And they have Anthony Richardson next year coming off injury reserve and an extremely high draft pick. So, it's not like they don't have any tools in the tool shed there. Listen, injuries happen. Daniel Jones was playing extremely well. I understand what they did. I don't think it was as bad a move as you do as getting Sauce Gardner, because you're not going to get a shut down corner like that can take away half the field. And I still agree with the move. It's a shame that Daniel Jones got injured yesterday because Colts were one of the more intriguing teams to me in this league. And, not only does it's obviously going to affect Jonathan Taylor because teams are going to be able to load the box more. And I think we're all kind of taking the Colts out of the playoff picture now. But I don't know. I think if you ask Chris Ballard if he had to go back, Geoff, and do it again, he'd probably make the same trade.
I think he has to because he has to go for it. And I think you never fault someone for maybe going for it in that moment, but big picture probably won't work out for them. But big picture, Houston Texans in the South are coming, Marty. 5 wins in a row, including a wins over Buffalo, the Colts, and the Chiefs. Their defense is fantastic. I am a tad bit concerned offensively, Marty. The Chiefs essentially just blitzed them, same as we saw last season, and they had no answers for it. Their young offensive linemen struggle at times. I think their offensive line is not good enough to win many playoff games, but their defense is, Marty. A big win for them last night. Where do you stack them up in the AFC right now?
Again, I think they're going head-to-head with Jacksonville at the end. I just think that this defense is playing at an extremely high level. They're a very well-coached team. And, the offense is good enough. I think C.J. Stroud, after coming back, being hurt, he's coming back. I think he's playing better every week. They're a really interesting team. I like them. I think that they have a chance to win that division.
So worth noting the division odds right now, Jaguars minus 185, Texans plus 150. The Texans finish out with the Cardinals, Raiders, Chargers, Colts. So might be worth a peek at that plus 150 here, that they split they're head-to-head with the Jacksonville. I don't know the tiebreakers beyond that. They're obviously getting a little convoluted here. Jacksonville schedule, for those noting here, Jets, Broncos, Colts, Titans. So really not much of a difference in strength of schedule there. We'll wrap up the AFC and we'll head to the NFC. We'll do that next. GM Shuffle, sent it by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Back on the GM Shuffle here, Marty. Very quickly on the AFC before we hit the NFC here. The Bills win yesterday. They're now the 5 seed. They're 9-4. They play the Patriots this upcoming week. Patriots off a bye. They're at New England. They are a slight favorite in this game. I am still very concerned about their defense, buddy. And I get why they're a favorite because their offense and Josh Allen and the history there, but their defense, they just, I don't think they win the conference, if their defense is what it is, which essentially it's week 14 is not going to change.
Yeah, I mean, I thought their best chance of going deep in the playoffs was obviously to get home field advantage because we saw yesterday with the snow and the cold, they built their team that way to play in those conditions in December and January. They would have the edge, but I don't think they're going to be able to do that. And again, to me, that their whole success runs through Josh Allen. He has to make superstar plays. I think it ignites the team, which we saw yesterday. At one point when they're down by 10, you're wondering where the Bills are even going to make the playoffs or not. I mean, it looked very gloomy there for quite a while, but who makes the play? He comes up, Josh Allen, the 40-yard run, and it just changed the whole game. So they're a very talented team with maybe the best quarterback in the league, certainly somebody who is always in the most valuable player conversation. But they just seem like they're a little hit and miss right now. But again, we haven't seen the team that's going to get hot in the playoffs. Geoff, somebody is going to catch fire here in each conference and make it to the conference championship game and maybe the Super Bowl. And it happens every year. So yeah. I kind of, that's why watching these games, I sort of have an eye on, okay, who's playing the best, who's going to catch fire. Obviously teams like the Patriots who have played well all year, you just want to see them keep doing it. But this is a very interesting playoff scenario this year. I think really compared to other seasons, there was always one or two teams, the Chiefs or way back the Patriots. Now, I don't think you can you pick one or two teams that you think are definitely going to be in the championship game or the Super Bowl?
I think Denver in the AFC side, I feel very comfortable with the way they play and their defense, their offensive line, their run game. I think they will be a participant in the AFC game. In Buffalo, look, I think you just have to pick Buffalo till further notice. Being in the postseason is helpful, and the teams around them have not had success or have not been there before. So I would lean toward Denver and Buffalo at the moment, but obviously things change here. Marty, let's turn our attention to the NFC now. The Rams are the number 1 seed at 10-3 via tiebreaker against Seattle, who's also 10-3 because they beat each other. The Rams beat Seattle, if you recall, a couple weeks ago. Rams handled business against Arizona, 45-17, just a laugher of a game. I almost bet the Rams, Marty. I was like, you know what, the Rams they're going to play well after that loss to the Panthers, and they did. They played well. They're 10-3. They play Seattle again in Seattle. Thursday night. I wish it wasn't Thursday, Marty. I wish this game was a Sunday. They don't flex Thursday games, right? They don't flex them out like that.
No, they do not.
This is a game where I want everyone to be healthy. Like I want everyone to have a full week of preparation, a full week for your body to get acclimated to obviously having to play another game because Thursday in week 16 you're not ready to do that. But to me, the Rams are the best team in the NFC. And maybe Seattle slightly behind them. Where do you see those two teams right now? Seattle, by the way, winning Atlanta yesterday. Atlanta now eliminated from the postseason. Seattle with 3 straight wins, 3 straight games of some good defense. Marty, how do you stack those two teams up?
Boy, they're really close. It's hard for me to make a decision, and I'm not waffling on you, but you watch those games yesterday, and the Rams. I mean, the Cardinals were in the red zone several times. That you would think if they had it more together offensively, that game might have been closer. Seattle really kind of danced with Atlanta for the first half and then just took over defensively and the running game. I would have to go with the Rams if you made me take one of them, just because I think they're just more experienced and they're probably more balanced on each side. But the Seahawks are playing really good football right now. So that game against the Rams and the Seahawks will be extremely important. And whoever wins the division and gets the home field is gonna be huge for them.
Yeah, so we'll know more about that division in a couple of weeks, even though the Rams do play the Lions this week. So we'll maybe figure out the Rams a little bit sooner here. By the way, the 6th seed at the moment, the Niners on a bye 9-4. They're still lurking, Marty. Their team's beat up, but their schedule: Titans, Colts, Bears, Seahawks. They host the last 2 games at home. Just have to go to the Colts in a dome after Daniel Jones out for the season. I like their chances to get to maybe 12 wins here at the minimum and make themselves the 5 seed and potentially, make it difficult for Seattle or Los Angeles. Moving to the north here, the Packers sit 9-3-1 after beating the Bears in a game that they won 28-21. It didn't feel that close, even though the Bears had the ball 4th and 1 inside the 10-yard line there, the very last drive of the game, Marty. I'll tell you what, I love the resilience of the Bears in this game. They're not quite ready, I think, to make an impact in the postseason, Marty, but they did not play well in the first half. I think Williams had something like 30 yards past the first half, man. Touchdown, field goal, touchdown, then interception to end the game. My takeaway from this game is actually about the Bears. I think the Bears are much closer than I thought they are to being an NFC contender. And next year, I think they're going to be.
I agree. And I'm not ready to throw them out right now, but I agree with you. It feels like they're a year away, but they're playing good defense. They run the ball. Caleb Williams is getting better each and every week. And I think that the way he can create off script is just something that you really look for in young quarterbacks, and it's special. And it's really what turns quarterbacks into difference makers in this league, in my opinion. But the Packers are a team that, strap on the Marty roller coaster, because I loved them at the beginning of the season, and then they just didn't look right. And now the last couple of weeks, to me, Josh Jacobs looks like he's running the ball better than he has all year. Jordan Love, obviously, is playing extremely well and has a history of playing extremely well in December. They're going to be, I think the Packers are going to be a team that is really going to compete for the NFC crown.
Just something about the Packers, Marty. I just don't know, man. I don't know what it is.
I know they can run the ball.
I know the pass rush worried me. There was no pass rush outside of Parsons, and that does concern me heading in the postseason. Right. Something about their offense, like it feels, their offense feels hard to get passing yards. You know what I mean? The Watson touchdown was awesome. But how are you going to rely on that a ton? 17-25 for Love. That Watson touchdown accounted for 30% of that. Not that much, obviously, but one long touchdown to Bo Melton. 2 passes accounted for 86 of those yards. It's good to have explosive plays, but there's just something about them I just can't put my finger on, and maybe I'm being unfair to the Packers here, Marty. Sticking in the NFC North, the Lions, 8-5, right behind the Packers and the Bears. They sit right now outside looking in for the postseason. It does feel like, Marty, that the Lions got the Rams, the Steelers, the Vikings at end week 18 at the Bears. That feels like that might be that last game of the season for a wild card spot between the Bears and Lions there in Sunday Night Football. I don't know, man. The Lions could be on the outside looking in. What do you think with the Lions' chances to make the postseason?
They might be the best team not to make the playoffs, Geoff. I agree with you. They have a rough schedule coming up. They surprised me. I liked Dallas last week, but they came out and played extremely well. Boy, this is a tough-minded team led by a tough-minded coach, and they have enough players and difference makers on either side of the ball. I can't count them out. I don't like that schedule. I can't count them out. But one good team is going to get left out of this NFC playoff picture. The West looks so strong. It might be a North team, and it might be the Lions.
Man, looking at Week 18 very quickly, Marty, and we know that last game of the season, they like to put a play-in game, essentially, right? Win or get in or lose, and you're out. Carolina at Tampa Bay, Week 18, that is a possibility. Detroit at Chicago is a possibility. But I don't think that we expected the NFC South to be in the spot where the Bucs are 7-6 after a horrific loss to the Saints, an unacceptable loss to the Saints this past weekend at home in bad weather. The Tyler Shuck who ran all over you on some of those design runs. The Panthers sitting at home after beating the Rams. The Panthers have the Saints, who they lost to this early this season, and then 2 at Tampa Bay. So that division will be decided, the last month of the season, Marty. The Bucs, man, what has happened to them? They have this identity, an identity of running the football, rushing the passer. Baker Mayfield sort of making these magical plays as gone. They've lost 4 of the last 5. They're not looking good. What have you noticed from Tampa Bay as some of the issues, Marty?
I thought Bucky Irvin's return would help them yesterday, and he did. But, it's funny because we used to look during it. That game was rainy and weather was bad. The ball was wet. And when the ball was wet, we always talked about quarterbacks with small hands. And Baker Mayfield has 9 1/4 hands. He's got small hands. And sometimes it's hard to control a wet football if you don't have bigger hands like that. Now, listen, started out in Cleveland. I get it. But I just think that the wet ball and the weather might have affected his performance yesterday. We would always look at a quarterback's hand size when we were going into bad weather because we thought it made it much more difficult for them to be consistently accurate.
My hands are massive. That's like my one I couldn't jump at the combine, out or up. Couldn't do that. My 10 was good. My 10 was 1.8, which wasn't bad. My 40 atrocious. Shuttle bad, but massive, like 11-inch hands, which is like a massive hand. So that helped me grab and hold throughout my career. I was never accused of having small hands in the bad weather. But look, man, all those little things matter. They absolutely do. And let's continue our discussion about Tyler Shuck and Shadur Sanders, 2 rookie quarterbacks yesterday that played well. Marty has thoughts on them. We'll do that next. Geoff presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We're back on the GM Shuffle. Our best bets will be in a few minutes, so stay tuned for that. We'll talk a little bit about Monday Night Football as well. So, Marty, very quickly here, Tyler Shuck, 13 of 20, 144. The game was in a downpour. It was bad weather, and the Saints were 5-11 on third down, but man, when they needed a big throw, a big run, Tyler Shuck did it. He looked like a quarterback you can build around for the future. What are your thoughts on Tyler Shuck?
Yeah, the first thing everybody wants to say is about his age and how long he was in college. But again, I watched this guy, 4 years ago on tape, and he is a natural passer. He has a huge skill set, and he showed yesterday he's got the mobility in the legs to make plays and make him a dual threat quarterback. You're starting to think, and I wonder if they're saying this inside the New Orleans facilities is, hey, we should have started playing him earlier and given him more experience. I certainly think that he has shown enough to at least consider him or give him a chance to compete for the starting job next year. He has a multiple skill set. I think he's done a really good job for a young guy stepping in, even though he is a little bit older in age. I thought he played extremely well yesterday.
Yeah, I actually don't think they bring a competition for him. I think he's their guy. They drafted him, right? The new staff drafted him to be their starting quarterback. I would not imagine they bring in any serious competition for him, especially if he finishes the season strong. Still, obviously, a month left to prove it. The other quarterback yesterday that I didn't watch the game as closely. I've seen the game since, but Shadur Sanders, 23 of 42, 364, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. What if you like quarterback rating, 97.7, the Browns lose by 2 to the Tennessee Titans. I thought it was the Browns being favored felt like a silly, but nonetheless, the Browns lose that game. What'd you make of Sanders? Look, he's getting more reps, man. More reps, playing better.
Really is. I mean, threw for 364 yards. Really is, again, when he gets out of the pocket, when things are unscripted, he keeps his eyes downfield, he can make plays. There's one the biggest alarming trait to me, Geoff, is, and you talked about it last week as far as the time that he takes to get rid of the ball. If you watch him, he pats the ball probably not only once, but he pats it at least twice. And I've been with some really good quarterback coaches that say, you know what, that is a really hard habit to break, but you have to break it, because when you're patting the ball, that's taken away from that's adding on to your release time. So that was a concern with me just watching him. But shoot, he made plays. I thought he played an extremely good game. Certainly good enough to say, listen, we need to see more, because he, like Tyler showed, could be a guy that could step in and be the quarterback of the future. He certainly has the athletic ability, the arm ability. He's got to become more accurate, but he's got to get rid of the ball faster. He's got to quit patting the ball.
Look, I think that's the thing that would unlock his game to a level. I don't know why he fell in the draft, Marty. I couldn't give you a great reason. He obviously fell much further than his talent. The thing about his talent that I think held him back was holding the ball too long. And there's a correlation between taking sacks in college, taking sacks in the NFL. Now, to be fair, Caleb Williams took a ton of sacks, and he's figured out right now how to take less sacks. And part of that is they built a better offensive line around him in Chicago. He's getting more confident and comfortable. He's getting the ball out on time. And even when he's not, he's making these Caleb Williams, we saw the Heisman worthy plays, right? He made in college. He's doing that now with the Bears. So Sanders can grow out of this, but he's not as mobile as Caleb Williams, right? So for him, his job is always going to be to get the ball on time. And if he continues to work on that, his arm is good enough, his accuracy is good enough. I mean, he was the Colorado offense last season. So the question I have, though, is big picture. Stefanski's probably not there next season. I just can't imagine it. Whether he's fired or let go, whatever term you want to use, he decides to leave on his own. Is that in the next month, can Sanders convince the Browns to keep him as their starter, or will they bring in competition for him? Probably Mendoza from Indiana, if they can get him, number 1 overall. It just doesn't feel like Sanders is in a spot, for as well as he's progressing, the Browns view him as a long-term starter. Do you think anything could change in the last month of the season where the Browns decide, let's go somewhere else with our first pick in the draft?
Well, I think you just mentioned it. I think the only way they go somewhere else is if they do have the first pick and Mendoza's there. And again, I haven't studied all the quarterbacks, but from what I've seen of him so far, he certainly looks like he's got a chance to be the first overall. But if you don't get that, let's say the Raiders have the first pick and you aren't in a position to get what you think is a slam dunk difference maker in the draft, certainly I think you go with him and you bring in competition. But I really liked him in college. I thought that it was a great pick taking him in the 5th round. He slid obviously because of other reasons than his performance on the field, whether it was his what he did in the interviews in the combine, whatever it was. It seemed like there was around the league, there was talk between teams and guys just talk about when players go up and you interview. And I don't know why he fell to the 5th. Obviously, it really had nothing to do with his playing ability. And I was really proud of the way he played yesterday. I thought he was one of the best quarterbacks coming out of the draft, and I think he is playing like it.
I mean, have you seen a situation like this where quarterback fell that far that's not injury related? Yeah,
I mean, there are instances, and I don't I don't know about quarterback as much. I mean, but if you look at it, I mean, shoot, Aaron Rodgers went, 26th, 27th in the draft. Now that's first round. That's not, you're talking about later.
We see that with first rounders, like Lyle Collins dropped because he might have been up for murder charges. That's what we see happen. I mean, Laramie Tunsil fell 5 spots because people thought smoking weed, 10 years ago was the worst thing ever. I think nowadays Tunsil doesn't drop a single pick if that gas mask video comes out, Marty. But to drop this far when no one questioned the talent he had, right? But even if he interviewed poorly and turned teams off, which is sort of the reports out there, that's still a big drop, man. Like, that's a very big drop once you get out of the first. I mean, the value of snagging up in the second round, if we all thought he could be a star in the NFL, felt so extreme. I think we'll find out maybe more eventually at some point, but the drop just did not match what I think the production was in college. So surprising to see. Marty, quickly here, we're running out of time here. Monday Night Football, Eagles, Chargers. Justin Herbert, I think he's playing, has a broken wrist. Look, it's now or never for the Eagles, man. This is it. This is it. If you can't figure out something offensively, the reports are Nick Sirianni, thankfully, has decided to be part of the offense, Marty, which I appreciate from coach. I called him out for that, so I like that. What do you make of this game very quickly before we get into our best bets?
To have the success the Philadelphia Eagles have had in recent years, and even this year, I mean, we forget they're still at the top of the NFC East. This is a resilient group. I think they almost thrive on this. They're from Philly. They thrive on people arguing and saying things about them. And I think it gives them motivation to just fight back. I really like the Eagles in this spot tonight. I think that they're going to come out and play extremely well against a really good Chargers team that's just been really decimated. Their whole season has been turned in a different direction because of injuries.
It has, and the Chargers, I think are unlikely to make the playoffs. I mean, they are 8-4. I mean, they're not in a bad spot, but Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, Broncos, man, I think it's the hardest schedule still left in the National Football League. Even the bad team on this list is the Chiefs. You get them at home, on the road. Like, the bad team you play is Kansas City. Marty, let's get to our best bets here, presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Just looking ahead for the week, what do you got for us, Marty?
I like the Packers -1.5 at Denver. I think that, listen, Denver's won a lot of games in a row. The Packers, I think, are starting to play their best football. They had the defense to make life miserable, I think, for Bo Nix. I think that Micah Parsons is going to have a big game. And then I just think their offense, the way Josh Jacobs is running and Jordan Love is playing, I like the Packers giving 1.5 to the Broncos. And then I never get this team right, so you probably want to run to the computer and go the other side. But I got to take the Panthers -2.5 versus the Saints. Now, at New Orleans is a really hard place to win in the NFC South. I mean, going to Atlanta, going to New Orleans, but the Panthers, man, if they don't get the motivation by sitting and taking a bye week, and now you're tied, you've got 2 games left, 2 of your last 4 games are left with the team that you're tied with in first. I like what they're doing. I like what Canales has done with this team, and I think they cover the 2.5, the Saints.
I lean towards Buffalo covering this number. I New England. I just think Buffalo is going to avenge their loss early the season. It's a short number. People will obviously, I think look to back this here. The money line -115 could also be something. I also like the Texans to win the AFC South at +150. I just trust them a tad bit more than Jacksonville. I know their schedules are both pretty easy, so there's have to be a slip up here for Jacksonville here down the stretch. Again, Jets, Broncos, Colts, Titans. So maybe that Broncos game, maybe at Indianapolis could be a slip-up spot for them as well. But Texans' schedule is advantageous for them to be division winners. So I'll take that short money right now. I'd also look at the Bengals, Marty, against the Ravens. The Bengals are +1.5. They're at home. They're not out of it, but the Ravens, I think, are so broken at the moment, man. I know what the Bengals are. I know what they are. They might be flawed, but I know what they are. I don't know what Baltimore is, and so I'm not sure I want to back that. All right, Marty, we've reached the end of our Monday show as usual. If you're listening now, that means you like us. If you listen to the whole show, you like us. Rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, right, for our Monday show. Our Thursday show, be back previewing all the games for Week 15, including Thursday Night Football, looking at who needs to win, who doesn't need to win. We'll talk about playoff scenarios again on that day. Talk to you guys Thursday, guys. Enjoy the game tonight. Take care, everybody.